A reading from Cepher YASHER, the Book of JASHER, Chapter 22 and 23. Chapter 22. And Ishmael then rose up and took his woman, and his children, and his cattle, and all belonging to him. And he journeyed from there, and he went to his father in the land of the Philistine. And Avraham related to Ishmael his son the transaction with the first woman that Ishmael took, according to what she did. And Ishmael and his children dwelt with Avraham many days in that land. And Avraham dwelt in the land of the Philistine a long time. And the days increased and reached 26 years. And after that Avraham with his servants, and all belonging to him, went from the land of the Philistine, and removed to a great distance. And they came near to Chevron, and they remained there, and the servants of Avraham dug wells of water. And Avraham and all belonging to him dwelt by the water. And the servants of Avimelech, king of the Philistine, heard the report that Avraham's servants had dug wells of water in the borders of the land. And they came and quarreled with the servants of Avraham, and they robbed them of the great well which they had dug. And Avimelech, king of the Philistine, heard of this affair, and he with Phicol, the captain of his host, and 20 of his men came to Avraham. And Avimelech spoke to Avraham concerning his servants. And Avraham rebuked Avimelech concerning the well of which his servants had robbed him. And Avimelech said to Avraham, As Yahuwah lives, who created the whole earth, I did not hear of the act which my servants did unto your servants until this day. And Avraham took 7 ewe lambs, and gave them to Avimelech, saying, Take these, I pray you, from my hands, that it may be a testimony for me that I dug this well. And Avimelech took the 7 ewe lambs, which Avraham had given to him, for he had also given him cattle and herds in abundance. And Avimelech swore to Avraham concerning the well. Therefore he called that well Be'er Sheva, for there they both swore concerning it. And they both cut a covenant in Be'er Sheva. And Avimelech rose up with Phicol, the captain of his host, and all his men, and they returned to the land of the Philistine. And Avraham and all belonging to him dwelt in Be'er Sheva, and he was in that land a long time. And Avraham planted a large grove in Be'er Sheva, and he made to it 4 gates facing the 4 sides of the earth. And he planted a vineyard in it, so that if a traveler came to Avraham, he entered any gate which was in his road, and remained there, and ate and drank, and satisfied himself, and then departed. For the house of Avraham was always open to the sons of men that passed and repassed, who came daily to eat and drink in the house of Avraham. And any man who had hunger, and came to Avraham's house, Avraham would give him bread that he might eat and drink and be satisfied. And any one that came naked to his house, he would clothe with garments as he might choose, and give him silver and gold, and make known to him Yahuwah, who had created him in the earth. This did Avraham all his life. And Avraham and his children, and all belonging to him, dwelt in Be'er Sheva. And he pitched his tent as far as Chevron. And Avraham's brother Nachor and his father, and all belonging to them, dwelt in Haran. For they did not come with Avraham to the land of Canaan. And children were born to Nachor, which Milcah, the daughter of Haran, and sister to Sarah, Avraham's woman, bore to him. And these are the names of those that were born to him: Uz, Buz, Kemuel, Kesed, Gazo, Pildash, Yidlaf, and Bethuel. Being 8 sons, these are the children of Milcah, which she bore to Nachor, Abraham's brother. And Nachor had a concubine, and her name was Reumah, and she also bore to Nachor Zevach, Gachash, Tashash, and Maacah, being 4 sons. And the children that were born to Nachor were 12 sons, besides his daughters. They also had children born to them in Haran. And the children of Uz, the firstborn of Nachor, were Avi, Chereph, Gadin, Melas, and Deborah their sister. And the sons of Buz were Barachel, Naameth, Shiva, and Madanu. And the sons of Kemuel were Aram and Rechov. And the sons of Chesed were Anamlech, Meshai, Benon, and Yaphi. And the sons of Kazo were Pildash, Meki, and Ophir. And the sons of Pildash were Arud, Chamum, Mered, and Molech. And the sons of Yidlaf were Mushan, Kushan, and Mutzi. And the children of Bethuel were Sekar, Lavan, and their sister Rivkah. These are the families of the children of Nachor that were born to them in Haran. And Aram the son of Kemuel, and Rechov his brother, went away from Haran, and they found a valley in the land by the river Perath. And they built a city there, and they called the name of the city after the name of Pethor, the son of Aram. That is Aram Naharaim unto this day. And the children of Chesed also went to dwell where they could find a place. And they went, and they found the valley opposite to the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they there built themselves a city, and they called the name at the city Chesed after the name of their father. That is the land Kasdima unto this day. And the Kasdim dwelt in that land, and they were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly. And Terach, father of Nachor and Avraham, went and took another woman in his old age. And her name was Pelilah, and she conceived and bore him a son. And he called his name Sovah. And Terach lived 25 years after he begot Sovah. And Terach died in that year. That is, in the 35th year of the birth of Yitzhak, son of Avraham. And the days of Terach were 205 years, and he was buried in Haran. And Sovah, the son of Terach, lived 30 years, and he begot Aram, Achlis, and Merik. And Aram, son of Sovah, son of Terach, had 3 women, and he begat 12 sons and 3 daughters. And Yahuwah gave to Aram, the son of Sovah, riches and possessions, and abundance of cattle, and flocks and herds, and the man increased greatly. And Aram, the son of Sovah, and his brother, and all his household journeyed from Haran, and they went to dwell where they should find a place, for their property was too great to remain in Haran, for they could not stop in Haran together with their brethren, the children of Nachor. And Aram, the son of Sovah, went with his brethren, and they found a valley at a distance toward the eastern country, and they dwelt there. And they also built a city there, and they called the name thereof Aram, after the name of their eldest brother, that is Aram Sovah to this day. And Yitzhak, the son of Avraham, was growing up in those days, and Avraham his father taught him the way of Yahuwah, to know Yahuwah, and Yahuwah was with him. And when Yitzhak was 37 years old, Yishmael his brother was going about with him in the tent. And Yishmael boasted of himself to Yitzhak, saying, I was 13 years old when Yahuwah spoke to my father to circumcise us. And I did according to the word of Yahuwah which he spoke to my father. And I gave my soul unto Yahuwah, and I did not transgress his word which he commanded my father. And Yitzhak answered Yishmael, saying, Why do you boast to me about this, about a little bit of your flesh, which you did take from your body, concerning which Yahuwah commanded you? As Yahuwah lives, the Elohim of my father Avraham, if Yahuwah should say unto my father, Take now your son Yitzhak, and bring him up an offering before me, I would not refrain, but I would joyfully accede to it. And Yahuwah heard the word that Yitzhak spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of Yahuwah, and he thought to try Avraham in this matter. And the day arrived when the sons of Elohim came and placed themselves before Yahuwah. And Satan also came with the sons of Elohim before Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said unto Satan, Whence come you? And Satan answered Yahuwah and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahuwah said to Satan, What is your word to me concerning all the children of the earth? And Satan answered Yahuwah and said, I I have seen all the children of the earth who serve you, and remember you when they require anything from you. And when you give them the thing which they require from you, they sit at their ease and forsake you, and they remember you no more. Have you seen Avraham, the son of Terach, who at first had no children, and he served you, and erected altars to you wherever he came? And he brought up offerings upon them, and he proclaimed your name continually to all the children of the earth. And now that his son Yitzhak is born to him, he has forsaken you. He has made a great feast for all the inhabitants of the land, and Yahuwah he has forgotten. For amidst all that he has done, he brought you no offering, neither burnt offering, nor peace offering, neither ox, lamb, nor goat, of all that he killed on the day that his son was weaned. Even from the time of his son's birth till now, being 37 years, he built no altar before you, nor brought any offering to you. For he saw that you did give what he requested before you, and he therefore forsook you. And Yahuwah said to Satan, Have you thus considered my servant Avraham? For there is none like him upon earth, a perfect and an upright man before me, one that fears Elohim and avoids evil. As I live, were I to say unto him, Bring up Yitzhak your son before me, he would not withhold him from me. Much more if I told him to bring up a burnt offering before me from his flock or herds. And Satan answered Yahuwah and said, Speak then now unto Avraham as you have said, and you will see whether he will not this day transgress and cast aside your words. Chapter 23. At that time the word of Yahuwah came to Avraham, and he said unto him, Avraham, and he said, Here I am. And he said to him, Take now your son, your Yachid, whom you love, even Yitzhak, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which shall be shown to you. For there will you see a cloud and the glory of Yahuwah. And Avraham said within himself, How shall I separate my son Yitzhak from Sarah his mother, in order to bring him up for a burnt offering before Yahuwah? And Avraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarah his woman, and he spoke these words to her, My son Yitzhak is grown up, and he has not for some time studied the service of his Elohim. Now tomorrow I will go and bring him to Shem and Eber his son, and there he will learn the ways of Yahuwah, for they will teach him to know Yahuwah, as well as to know that when he prays continually before Yahuwah, he will answer him. Therefore there he will know the way of serving Yahuwah Eloheu. And Sarah said, You have spoken well. Go, my lord, and do unto him as you have said. But remove him not at a great distance from me, neither let him remain there too long, for my soul is bound within his soul. And Avraham said unto Sarah, My daughter, let us pray to Yahuwah Eloheinu, that he may do good with us. And Sarah took her son Yitzhak, and he abode all that night with her. And she kissed and embraced him, and gave him instructions till morning. And she said to him, O my son, how can my soul separate itself from you? And she still kissed him and embraced him. And she gave Avraham instructions concerning him. And Sarah said to Avraham, O my lord, I pray you take heed of your son, and place your eyes over him. For I have no other son nor daughter but him. O forsake him not. If he be hungry, give him bread, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. Do not let him go on foot, neither let him sit in the sun. Neither let him go by himself in the road, neither force him from whatsoever he may desire. But do unto him as he may say to you. And Sarah wept bitterly the whole night on account of Yitzhak, and she gave him instructions till morning. And in the morning Sarah selected a very fine and beautiful garment from those garments which she had in the house, that Avimelech had given to her. And she dressed Yitzhak her son therewith, and she put a turban upon his head, and she enclosed a precious stone in the top of the turban. And she gave them provision for the road, and they went forth. And Yitzhak went with his father Avraham, and some of their servants accompanied them to see them off the road. And Sarah went out with them, and she accompanied them upon the road to see them off. And they said to her, Return to the tent. And when Sarah heard the words of her son Yitzhak, she wept bitterly. And Avraham her man wept with her. And their son wept with them a great weeping. Also those who went with them wept greatly. And Sarah caught hold of her son Yitzhak, and she held him in her arms, and she embraced him, and continued to weep with him. And Sarah said, Who knows if after this day I shall ever see you again? And they still wept together, Avraham, Sarah, and Yitzhak. And all those that accompanied them on the road wept with them. And Sarah afterward turned away from her son, weeping bitterly, and all her men servants and maidservants returned with her to the tent. And Avraham went with Yitzhak his son to bring him up as an offering before Yahuwah, as he had commanded him. And Avraham took 2 of his young men with him, Ishmael the son of Hagar, and Eliezer his servant. And they went together with them. And while they were walking in the road, the young men spoke these words to themselves. And Ishmael said to Eliezer, Now my father Avraham is going with Yitzhak to bring him up for a burnt offering to Yahuwah, as he commanded him. Now when he returns, he will give unto me all that he possesses, to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn. And Eliezer answered Ishmael and said, Surely Avraham did cast you away with your mother, and swear that you should not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has, with all his treasures, but unto me his servant, who has been faithful in his house, who has served him night and day, and has done all that he desired me? To me will he bequeath at his death all that he possesses. And while Avraham was proceeding with his son Yitzhak along the road, Satan came and appeared to Avraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of a contrite ruach. And he approached Avraham and said to him, Are you silly or brutish that you go to do this thing this day to your Yachid? For Elohim gave you a son in your latter days, in your old age. And will you go and slaughter him this day because he committed no violence? And will you cause the soul of your Yachid to perish from the earth? Do you not know and understand that this thing cannot be from Yahuwah? For Yahuwah cannot do unto man such evil upon earth to say to him, Go slaughter your child? And Avraham heard this, and knew that it was the word of Satan, who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of Yahuwah. But Avraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan, and Avraham rebuked him so that he went away. And Satan returned and came to Yitzhak. And he appeared unto Yitzhak in the figure of a young man, comely and well-favored. And he approached Yitzhak and said unto him, Do you not know and understand that your old silly father brings you to the slaughter this day for naught? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man, and let not your precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. And Yitzhak heard this, and said unto Avraham, Have you heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus has he spoken. And Avraham answered his son Yitzhak, and said to him, Take heed of him, and do not listen to his words, nor attend to him, for he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day from the commands of Elohim. And Avraham still rebuked Satan, and Satan went from them. And seeing he could not prevail over them, he hid himself from them. And he went and passed before them in the road. And he transformed himself to a large brook of water in the road. And Avraham and Yitzhak and his 2 young men reached that place. And they saw a brook, large and powerful as the mighty waters. And they entered the brook and passed through it. And the waters at first reached their legs. And they went deeper in the brook, and the waters reached up to their necks. And they were all terrified on account of the water. And while they were going over the brook, Avraham recognized that place. And he knew that there was no water there before. And Avraham said to his son Yitzhak, I know this place, in which there was no brook nor water. Now therefore it is this Satan who does all this to us, to draw us aside this day from the commands of Elohim. And Avraham rebuked him, and said unto him, Yahuwah rebuke you, O Satan. Be gone from us, for we go by the commands of Elohim. And Satan was terrified at the voice of Avraham, and he went away from them. And the place again became dry land, as it was at first. And Avraham went with Yitzhak toward the place that Elohim had told him. And on the third day Avraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place at a distance, which Elohim had told him of. And a pillar of fire appeared to him, that reached from the earth to heaven, and a cloud of glory upon the mountain. And the glory of Yahuwah was seen in the cloud. And Avraham said to Yitzhak, My son, do you see in that mountain, which we perceive at a distance, that which I see upon it? And Yitzhak answered and said unto his father, I see, and lo, a pillar of fire and a cloud, and the glory of Yahuwah is seen upon the cloud. And Avraham knew that his son Yitzhak was accepted before Yahuwah for a burnt offering. And Avraham said unto Eliezer and unto Ishmael his son, Do you also see that which we see upon the mountain, which is at a distance? And they answered and said, We see nothing more than like the other mountains of the earth. And Avraham knew that they were not accepted before Yahuwah to go with them. And Avraham said to them, Abide ye here with the ass, while I and Yitzhak my son will go to yonder mount, and worship there before Yahuwah, and then return to you. And Eliezer and Ishmael remained in that place as Avraham had commanded. And Avraham took wood for a burnt offering and placed it upon his son Yitzhak. And he took the fire and the knife, and they both went to that place. And when they were going along, Yitzhak said to his father, Behold, I see here the fire and wood. And where then is the lamb that is to be the burnt offering before Yahuwah? And Avraham answered his son Yitzhak, saying, Yahuwah has made choice of you, my son, to be a perfect burnt offering instead of the lamb. And Yitzhak said unto his father, I will do all that Yahuwah spoke to you with joy and cheerfulness of heart. And Avraham again said to Yitzhak his son, Is there in your heart any thought or counsel concerning this, which is not proper? Tell me, my son, I pray you. O my son, conceal it not from me. And Yitzhak answered his father Avraham and said unto him, O my father, as Yahuwah lives, and as your soul lives, there is nothing in my heart to cause me to deviate either to the right or to the left from the word that he has spoken to you. Neither limb nor muscle has moved or stirred at this, nor is there in my heart any thought or evil counsel concerning this. But I am of joyful and cheerful heart in this matter, and I say, Blessed is Yahuwah, who has this day chosen me to be a burnt offering before him. And Avraham greatly rejoiced at the words of Yitzhak. And they went on and came together to that place that Yahuwah had spoken of. And Avraham approached to build the altar in that place. And Avraham was weeping, and Yitzhak took stones and mortar until they had finished building the altar. And Avraham took the wood and placed it in order upon the altar which he had built. And he took his son Yitzhak and bound him in order to place him up upon the wood which was upon the altar, to slay him for a burnt offering before Yahuwah. And Yitzhak said to his father, Bind me securely, and then place me upon the altar, lest I should turn and move, and break loose from the force of the knife upon my flesh, and thereby profane the burnt offering. And Avraham did so. And Yitzhak still said to his father, O my father, when you shall have slain me and burnt me for an offering, take with you that which shall remain of my ashes to bring to Sarah my mother, and say to her, This is the sweet-smelling savor of Yitzhak. But do not tell her this if she should sit near a well or upon any high place, lest she should cast her soul after me and die. And Avraham heard the words of Yitzhak, and he lifted up his voice and wept when Yitzhak spoke these words. And Avraham's tears gushed down upon Yitzhak his son, and Yitzhak wept bitterly. And he said to his father, Hasten you, O my father, and do with me the will of Yahuwah Eloheinu, as he has commanded you. And the hearts of Avraham and Yitzhak rejoiced at this thing which Yahuwah had commanded them, but the eye wept bitterly while the heart rejoiced. And Avraham bound his son Yitzhak and placed him on the altar upon the wood. And Yitzhak stretched forth his neck upon the altar before his father. And Avraham stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay his son as a burnt offering before Yahuwah. At that time the angels of mercy came before Yahuwah, and spoke to him concerning Yitzhak, saying, O Yahuwah, you are a merciful and compassionate king over all that you have created in heaven and in earth, and you support them all. Give therefore ransom and redemption instead of your servant Yitzhak, and pity and have compassion upon Avraham and Yitzhak his son, who are this day performing your commands. Have you seen, O Yahuwah, how Yitzhak the son of Avraham, your servant, is bound down to the slaughter like an animal? Now therefore let your pity be roused for them, O Yahuwah. At that time Yahuwah appeared unto Avraham, and called to him from heaven, and said unto him, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him, for now I know that you fear Elohim in performing this act, and in not withholding your son, your Yachid, from me. And Avraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in a thicket by his horns. That was the ram which Yahuwah Elohim had created in the earth in the day that he made earth and heaven. For Yahuwah had prepared this ram from that day to be a burnt offering instead of Yitzhak. And this ram was advancing to Avraham when Satan caught hold of him and entangled his horns in the thicket, that he might not advance to Avraham, in order that Avraham might slay his son. And Avraham, seeing the ram advancing to him, and Satan, without withholding him, fetched him and brought him before the altar. And he loosened his son Yitzhak from his binding, and he put the ram in his stead. And Avraham killed the ram upon the altar, and brought it up as an offering in the place of his son Yitzhak. And Avraham sprinkled some of the blood of the ram upon the altar, and he exclaimed and said, This is in the place of my son, and may this be considered this day as the blood of my son before Yahuwah. And all that Avraham did on this occasion by the altar, he would exclaim and say, This is in the room of my son, and may it this day be considered before Yahuwah, in the place of my son. And Avraham finished the whole of the service by the altar. And the service was accepted before Yahuwah, and was accounted as if it had been Yitzhak. And Yahuwah blessed Avraham and his seed on that day. And Satan went to Sarah, and he appeared to her in the figure of an old man, very humble and meek. And Avraham was yet engaged in the burnt offering before Yahuwah. And he said unto her, Do you not know all the work that Avraham has made with your Yachid this day? And he took Yitzhak and built an altar, and killed him, and brought him up as a sacrifice upon the altar. And Yitzhak cried and wept before his father, but he looked not at him, neither did he have compassion over him. And Satan repeated these words, and he went away from her. And Sarah heard all the words of Satan, and she imagined him to be an old man from amongst the sons of men who had been with her son, and had come and told her these things. And Sarah lifted up her voice and wept, and cried out bitterly on account of her son. And she threw herself down upon the ground, and she cast dust upon her head. And she said, O my son Yitzhak, my son, O that I had this day died instead of you. And she continued to weep and said, It grieves me for you, O my son Yitzhak, O that I had died this day in your stead. And she still continued to weep and said, It grieves me for you, after that I have reared you and have brought you up. Now my joy is turned into mourning over you. I that had a longing for you, and cried and prayed to Elohim till I bore you at 90 years old. And now have you served this day for the knife and the fire to be made an offering. But I console myself with you, my son, in its being the word of Yahuwah, for you did perform the command of your Elohim. For who can transgress the word of our Elohim, in whose hands is the soul of every living creature? You are just, O Yahuwah Eloheinu, for all your works are good and righteous. For I also am rejoiced with your word which you did command. And while my eye weeps bitterly, my heart rejoices. And Sarah laid her head upon the bosom of one of her handmaids, and she became as still as a stone. She afterward rose up and went about making inquiries till she came to Chevron. And she inquired of all those whom she met walking in the road, and no one could tell her what had happened to her son. And she came with her maidservants and men servants to Quirat Arba, which is Chevron. And she asked concerning her son, and she remained there while she sent some of her servants to seek where Avraham had gone with Yitzhak. They went to seek him in the house of Shem and Eber, and they could not find him. And they sought throughout the land, and he was not there. And behold, Hasatan came to Sarah in the shape of an old man. And he came and stood before her, and he said unto her, I spoke falsely unto you, for Avraham did not kill his son, and he is not dead. And when she heard the word, her joy was so exceedingly violent on account of her son, that her soul went out through joy. She died, and was gathered to her people. And when Avraham had finished his service, he returned with his son Yitzhak to his young men. And they rose up and went together to Beer-sheva, and they came home. And Avraham sought for Sarah, and could not find her. And he made inquiries concerning her, and they said unto him, She went as far as Chevron to seek you both where you had gone, for thus was she informed. And Avraham and Yitzhak went to her to Chevron, and when they found that she was dead, they lifted up their voices and wept bitterly over her. And Yitzhak fell upon his mother's face and wept over her. And he said, O my mother, how have you left me, and where have you gone? Oh, how have you left me? And Avraham and Yitzhak wept greatly, and all their servants wept with them on account of Sarah, and they mourned over her a great and heavy mourning. End of Cepher YASHER, the Book of Jasher, chapters 22 and 23.